significantly in COVID-19. Make sure you get vaccinated, especially if you are over 60 years of age.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I am Mazra Hassan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Establishing an external mechanism to resolve Sri Lanka's conflicts is unnecessary, says the Foreign Secretary. Was the former Attorney General's revelation on the April 21st attacks concealed? EU delegation to visit Sri Lanka for talks on GSP+. Farmers express dissent over unacceptable behavior of officials. Was the son who murdered his father responsible for his uncle's death? Probe commenced into the mystery.
Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Admiral Professor Jayanath Columbage says the United Nations Human Rights Council holds no right to formulate an external mechanism to address Sri Lanka's internal conflicts. The Foreign Secretary expressed the following views at a media briefing organized by the President's Media Center today under the theme Geneva's Allegations, UNHRC Session and the country's foreign policy.
A
report on Sri Lanka's status must be presented by September 2022. By that time, they intend to mobilize the external mechanism. The UN High Commissioner says she is in possession of more than 120,000 files. We can observe several facts at this juncture. One is, it is our opinion that the Human Rights Commission has not been granted such sweeping powers by the UN. Also, at a time Sri Lanka's internal mechanism is functioning smoothly, such an external mechanism will not bring forth any results. We believe the funds invested and efforts exhausted on creating such a mechanism will prove futile. What we are attempting to highlight is that we will take all possible measures to ensure Sri Lanka's society continues to progress. Hence, such an external mechanism is not required. 15 nations spoke on behalf of Sri Lanka and called for support to be extended for the program carried out by the Sri Lankan government. 3 nations spoke on behalf of the nation they represent and reprimanded external influence. That is an act which goes beyond the United Nations Charter. Unfortunately, 4 countries spoke against us. They believe we must seek international assistance to resolve internal conflicts.
Did the April 21st attacks figure at the UNHRC sessions?
We did not issue a special comment on that matter in Geneva. However, the United Nations High Commissioner's report mentions that religious leaders expect the authorities to bring its perpetrators before the law and be punished. In the same speech, she calls for the release of certain people who are incarcerated. So we can see 2 separate opinions being put forward by the same people who are opposing us. One fact is, indictments have been filed against 26 people already. 3 Supreme Court judges have been appointed to hear the case daily from the 4th of October. Although there is widespread belief that certain individuals mentioned in the Presidential Commission report must be indicted, it cannot be done since the Commission report is not a legal document. The Catholic Church questioned today as to why authorities have failed to mobilize resources to probe the possibility of another terror attack similar to that of the April 21st attacks from occurring, especially in a context where a revelation to that front has been made by Venerable Galagodatte Gnana Sarathero. Previously, former Attorney General Dappula de Oliveira also made a similar comment.
Gnanasara Thera claimed there is a possibility of an extremist attack similar to that of the April 21st attacks occurring in the near future. The Venerable Thero went on to say the group is in possession of ammunition to conduct such an attack at any time. The Thero also said he has evidence to substantiate his claims, going on to note that he has knowledge on what the group is and their whereabouts. Finally, the Thera said the President has been apprised of this. If national security is of utmost importance, this matter should be prioritized and action must be taken. The President is expected to fly overseas. Even in the case of the April 21st attacks, we are aware that intelligence units had prior knowledge of the attacks. It was carried out at a time the former President was overseas. If these details are being ignored like the last time, we will live in constant fear that such an attack could occur at any point of time. If the former Attorney General also believes a grand conspiracy existed behind the attacks, why isn't a statement being recorded from the former Attorney General?
A delegation from the European Union is to visit Sri Lanka this month to discuss the GSP Plus concession. This was raised during a media briefing in Colombo today.
The European Union delegation regarding the GSP Plus is coming to Sri Lanka on the 27th, and they will be meeting all personnel involved directly and indirectly, the ministries. There will be working sessions, working groups, and there will be discussions. They will even meet the foreign minister, the prime minister, the president. They will meet everyone in Sri Lanka, and thereafter they will form up their opinion about Sri Lanka. I think our policy is come and see. There's nothing to hide here. Please come and see.
EU has consistently been Sri Lanka's top export destination for decades. In 2020, exports to the EU accounted for about 32% of total exports and brought in more than $3.2 billion worth of foreign currency earnings. Export income generated under the GSP and GSP Plus scheme in 2020 amounted to $2.6 billion, 26% of total exports during the year.
President Joe Biden announced that the United States is forming a new Indo-Pacific security alliance with Britain and Australia that will allow for greater sharing of defense capabilities, including helping equip Australia with nuclear-powered submarines.
Biden, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison appeared together virtually to detail the new alliance, which will be called AUKUS. The three announced they would quickly turn their attention to developing nuclear-powered submarines for Australia. Matt Pottinger, who served as Deputy National Security Advisor in the Trump administration, said, quote, a nuclear-powered submarine fleet would allow Australia to conduct longer patrols, giving the new alliance a stronger presence in the Indo-Pacific region, end quote. The announcement of the new security alliance comes as the US-China relationship has deteriorated. Recently, at the 48th regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council, China's permanent representative to the UN said certain countries interfere in the internal affairs of other sovereign countries.
China is deeply concerned with the human rights issues of the US, the UK, Canada and Australia. These states interfere in other countries' domestic affairs in the name of human rights, implement unilateral coercive measures and military interference against sovereign states, which gravely violate the human rights of the people of the other countries.
Cheng Zhu made a special statement on Sri Lanka as well.
We are against the interference by countries concerned in Sri Lanka's domestic affairs under the excuse of human rights.
The Sri Lankan permanent representative to the UNHRC shared the same sentiments of the Chinese permanent representative to the UN.
The principle of non-interference in the domestic affairs of sovereign states is the very bedrock on which the international order is founded. As such, external forces should not seek to interfere in Xinjiang and Hong Kong, which are integral parts of the People's Republic of China.
Meanwhile, journalists raised questions regarding Sri Lanka's stance on the turmoil in the geopolitical zone of the Sea of Sri Lanka.
Sri Lankaව එදා සිටම නොබැදී ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් අනුගමනය කරපු රටක්.
Sri Lanka has always followed a non-aligned policy. However, we can see how powerful countries in the Indian region are influencing our country. Therefore, we need to follow that policy and not align ourselves with any superpower and remain neutral. China spoke on behalf of us at the 46th and the 48th session of the UNHRC. We must speak for the countries that speak on behalf of us. We must not hesitate to express our views to the world. If a nation speaks on behalf of us, we must speak for them as well.
ඒ රටවල් අපි වෙනුවෙන් කතා කරන රටවල් වෙනුවෙනුත් අපි කතා කළ යුතුයි.
The United States provided $40 million in financing to bolster Sri Lanka's small and medium-sized enterprise sector and assist women entrepreneurs.
The $40 million will be used to provide over 1,400 loans ranging from 500,000 rupees to 1 million rupees each to SMEs throughout Sri Lanka. At least 40% of those loans will be granted to businesses that are owned by women or provide a product or service that empowers women. Many of the loans will also support Sri Lankan businesses impacted by the global COVID-19 pandemic. In a statement, the US Embassy said, quote, "The United States remains committed to a secure and prosperous Sri Lanka," end quote.
Sri Lanka has called on the rest of the world to oppose steps such as sanctions on countries at the 48th session of the UNHRC this evening.
The negative impact of the unilateral coercive measures was discussed at the 48th United Nations Human Rights Council session today. The term unilateral coercive measures refers to the steps taken by a country to force another country to change its policies. This includes trade sanctions, embargoes and halting investment.
We agree with the Special Rapporteur that unilateral coercive measures are illegal under international law and that their negative effects result in violations of all categories of economic, social and cultural rights, including the right to life and health, as well as civil and political rights. Sri Lanka has long recognized the negative impact of unilateral coercive measures on the enjoyment of human rights. We recall that the Vienna Declaration and Programme of Action and resolutions at the UN General Assembly and the HRC have called upon states to refrain from such unilateral measures.
What happened to the forensic audit report which probed the alleged frauds and irregularities at the central bank between the period 2006 to 2015? Why were investigations concerning the matter were swept under the rug? Samaga Jana Balawege raised their concerns regarding the matter today.
A commission was appointed to probe the alleged fraud and irregularities at the central bank between 2006 to 2015. A forensic audit report was made through this commission. The report raised various concerns regarding these frauds and irregularities and even laid down several recommendations to follow. If Cabral is a person with morals, he should answer these queries before taking up the position again. He has failed to answer these concerns raised by the forensic audit report. So far, no person has been punished based on this forensic audit report. Under such a backdrop, they appointed Cabral as the governor of the central bank again. He bears no qualifications to hold this position. Therefore, we expect to file a fundamental rights petition against this appointment with the Supreme Court. This appointment will definitely create a negative impact on our country when we carry out international monetary transactions.
In more local news, Deputy General Manager of Finance of Lanka Satosa, who was arrested earlier today by the Paliugada police, was remanded until the 21st of this month after he was produced before the Valisara Magistrates Court. He was charged with the illegal sale of 54,860 kg of garlic under the custody of Lanka Satosa to a businessman. Investigative officers of the police said the consignment of garlic worth 7,406,100 rupees had been sold to the trader after it had been moved out of the Colombo port pursuant to a cabinet decision. Opposition members of the Dehi Atta Kandiya Pradeshya Sabha embarked to locate an institution which would offer a reasonable price for paddy earlier today.
They travelled to multiple shops including a Satosa outlet along with their harvest today to express their dissatisfaction over being unable to fetch a reasonable price for their produce. The price of pesticides skyrocketed. We went through many hardships to reap this harvest, but there is no one to purchase our paddy. A farmer would trade in stocks of paddy to purchase essential goods required for his household, but today farmers cannot do that. Both the farmers and traders are helpless.
Farmers have to survive for 6 months through the income they generate from the sale of paddy. How are they to survive now?
All we want is a guaranteed price. Purchase a kilo of nadu at 65 rupees, samba at 75 rupees and kiri samba at 90 rupees. This is our only request. Paddy can be observed stockpiled at the houses in Buddhaya Hinguragoda area.
ආණ්ඩුව කරේ මේ ගොවිබිම් එක්කන් තියෙන ආසාවට කෑදරකමට මේ ඉඩම් වලට වැව් වලට තියෙන කෑදරකමට මේ ගොයියට කරගෙන යන්නේ වෙන මොනවත් නෙමේ මේ ඉඩම් ටිකත් එපා කරලා හැමදේම කරලා මොනවා හරි කරලා මේකේ වටිනාකම බහුජාතික සමාගම් වලට දෙන්නද කියන එක අපිට පොඩි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා සැකයක් තියෙනවා හැබැයි කිසි දෙයක් ආණ්ඩුවට කවදාවත් කිසිම වෙලාවක ඉෂ්ට සිද්ධ කරගන්න මේ ගොයියෝ කීයටවත් ලෑස්ති වෙන්නෙත් නැහැ.
Farmers of Polonnaruwa Galamuna Farmers Movement convened a media briefing in Buddhaya Hinguragoda today. If a large-scale rice mill owners are selling paddy for a high price, the government must control that. There is no argument in that. But what has happened is farmers had not received a fair price. Don't control this situation at the expense of the farmers. By the next season, there will be a huge paddy shortage. Isn't there a weakness at the top management of the country when intellectuals at the top of the paddy marketing board resign? That is what these farmers are also pointing out. You are a weak government. There is a problem in the management of the government. The government forcefully confiscated paddy from businesses, but don't come into the houses of farmers and confiscate our paddy. Give a fair price for the paddy we cultivate.
අපිට සාධාරණ මිලක් ලබා දෙන්න. ගොයියෝ මේ නිහඬව හිටියට ගොයියෝන්ගේ වැඩ දන්නේ නැහැ.
It is not only the paddy farmers but onion farmers as well who are facing severe hardships in fetching a fair price for their crops. These are the onion farmers of Bakamuna in Alahara. They lament even though their pockets are empty, ample stocks of onions are stockpiled in their homes until a fair price can be fetched for their produce. We don't have a proper price for our crops. We don't know what else to do now. Traders are not coming to purchase our crops. If it rains, we don't have a place to store these onions. We didn't cultivate these for our own consumption. We cultivated these for the people of the country. The government should set in place a proper mechanism to take these goods to the market.
Because of these internal government fiascos, us farmers are losing our income. Government has intimidated the traders. In the end, prices will go up and the public will suffer.
Farmers fear the Consumer Affairs Authority seizing their harvests if substantial stocks are kept in their possession. However, they are also unable to offer their harvest at a reasonable price before the Consumer Affairs Authority shows up at their doorstep. The farmers' hopes of tilling lands for the next season are also diminishing now due to irrigational complications. Ampara is one of the many areas suffering the detrimental effects of such complications. Officials had stepped in to redirect water of the Rajavava from farmlands to a freshwater fish project while farmers were preparing to till their lands for cultivations. Over the past few days, a certain individual had opened the Kith Ala, directing water towards pools of water where freshwater fish are bred. The key to opening the Kethala was not in the possession of the true custodian, also known as the Jalapalaka. Such an act is only a precursor to 150 farming families cultivating over 198 acres of paddy lands, losing their sole means of income. Officials representing multiple agrarian organizations in Ampara travelled to the Rajavava today to learn further details on the matter. We notified the Presidential Secretariat, Government Agent, the former Divisional Secretary and Agrarian Services Centre. I have been harassed many times for speaking against this. It is a disappointing situation. Please ensure I gain some sort of justice. I am the first person who went against this.
අයිතිකාරය එක්කෙනෙක් කුසිනෝනා එක්කෙනෙක් කුසි මහත්තයා කරංගාවේ අනිත් එක්කෙනා බන්දු මල්ලි එයාත් මේ වැඩ කරන්නේ කච්චේරියේ අනිත් එක්කෙනා නගර සභාවේ එතකොට ඊයේ වතුර ඇරියේ නගර සභාවේ වැඩ කරන ගමන් ඇවිල්ලා අනිත් එක්කෙනා රාජා එයා වැඩ කරන්නේ CTD එකේ එතකොට
දැන් අපි ජනාධිපතිතුමාට මේක හොඳයි අහන්න නේද? අපි විශ්වාස කරන්නේ එතුමාට අපි මේකම පණිවිඩයක් දෙන්න පුළුවන් නේ. මේක අයිති තියෙන්නේ පළාත් කුසිත වාරි මාර්ගයකට. පළාත් වාරි.
This comes under the purview of the Provincial Irrigation Department. I do not know if the officer in charge is aware of this. This water is used to nourish paddy lands. Farmers make a living through this. They do not have another revenue stream. They have constructed this on a reserve. The State Minister of Wildlife has permitted this to move forward. He came here shamelessly to release fish into the ponds. I want to know if he was fully clothed when he came here.
එයා එනවා ලැජ්ජ නැතුව මේකට මාළු පැටව දාලා යන්න උත්සවේ. මං අහන කලිසම ඇදගෙන දාවේ මුතුතුමා මේකට මාළු දාන්න කියලා.
Not only the Ampara Rajavavar, even the Ampara Reservoir is faced with a severe threat of destruction. This too has fallen prey to another walking path. Our cameras captured a walking path already constructed on the bund of the reservoir. The existing walking path was constructed in 2013 under the Dieta Curula program. Representatives of agrarian organizations point out that around 50 meters of the bund has been damaged due to this construction. This is the karma you have to face when you appoint ostentatious leaders.
පාලකයා අහසි පාලකයා පාවෙනවා පාලකයා ඇවිදිනවා පාලකයා බාල් නටනවා.
These leaders are elitists. They don't know what's happening at a field or a waver. Are these the kind of projects you commence when the country is facing a debt crisis? Our citizens are struggling to find a means to survive. Talking about this project, they have failed to obtain permission from the irrigation department for it. This is against the law. However, the Urban Development Authority or a politician has allowed to carry out the project. Come and see for yourself. Our whole irrigation network is doomed. These rulers detest wavers. I think they have some disease where they despise wavers. I don't know what caused this hurry. The irrigation department has not given permission for the project. No one there knows about it. They are destroying these according to their own whims and fancies. How can you work in such a manner? Do not focus on setting up walking paths. Focus on your own way out.
State Minister Roshan Ranasinghe says the project to construct a jogging track near the Parakrama Samudra will resume soon. The project, which is believed to affect the breakwater of the Parakrama Samudra, was halted recently. We have the complete blessings of Venerable Venderuwe Upalitero, the Anunayaka of the Asgiri chapter. We also have the blessings of the Malwatu Viharaya's Deputy Registrar, Venerable Pahamune Sumangalatero. We will explain the details to Venerable Kotapitiye Rahulatero and obtain his blessings as well. We will also keep the chief prelates of the Ramanya and Amurapura sects informed about this and obtain their blessings. The leaders of farmers associations haven't been informed about this properly either. They will also understand this. King Parakramabahu didn't construct a palace on the bank of a river. This is to be enjoyed by the common man. People who can afford to visit hotels near the river and enjoy it. However, who is becoming jealous when a farmer's child can enjoy the massive projects carried out by King Parakramabahu? I have a problem. If it is okay to do such projects near the Tissa river and near the rivers in Anuradhapura or Kurunagala, what is the problem with doing it in Polonnaruwa? These are being carried out by engineers and not by ordinary construction workers.
සංවර්ධනයක් කිරීමේ හැකියාව තියෙනවා නම් අයි පොළොන්නරුව එකට හම් මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ මේවා කරන්නේ නිකම් පෙදරෝරු මහත්තුරු නෙමෙයි ඉංජිනේරු මහත්තුරු.
Speaking at a sapling planting event organised in line with the International Day for the Preservation of the Ozone Layer in Mahianganaya, leader of the indigenous community Uruwarige Vanilato said the balance of the environment goes into disarray when natural resources of the country such as the water bodies are destroyed.
මේ මිනිග්ගජ්ජු කියලා කතා දමන මේ ඇත්තන්ට මේ ආශාව, තණ්හාව, ඊර්ෂ්‍යාව, වෛරය, ක්‍රෝධය කියන එකම අවසන් තැන මන් දෙලා කොදොයි. හැම දවස්
People's hearts are full of hatred, jealousy and envy. They do not think about the nature, environment, religion, race or country. They only think about themselves. There is a competition when you prioritize greed. There is no limit to that competition. During that competition, people forget their traditions and the nation. They even forget their parents. There will be a power struggle. Nature always waited for this competition to stop. Now the natural order has brought forth punishment. It is not just COVID-19. People died from horrible natural disasters such as floods and landslides. But they still don't seem to understand.
හැබැයි මේතන මේ සබා දහම කියන එකම ඇයිරුකොලට මන්ද කරගෙන ඉඳ තිබවුවා මේ මිනික් ගජ්ජුන්නේ මේ තරගේ කොයි දවස් පුජ්‍යද අවසන් වෙන මන් දෙන්නේ. දැන් සබා දහමෙන් දඬුවම් පුජ්‍ය අනෝ කරනවා. ඉතින් මේ දඬුවම් පුජ්‍ය මේ අත්තන්ට මේ කොරෝනා විතරක් නෙවෙයි මං ගැච්චුවේ. මේ කොරෝනා මං ගැච්චන් ඉච්චරෙන් මේ අත්තන්ට මේ වාගේම ස්වභාවික විපත් මං ගැච්චුවා. දියරැච්ච මං ගැච්චුවා, මහදිය ගංගල්ල උඩ තැනට මන් දුණා, කඳු පුජ්‍යවල් පහක් තැන මන් දුණා, කුණු කඳු පුජ්‍යවල් පටහැරිලා මිනික් ගජ්ජු මේකට දැම්මා. හැබැයි ඒත් මිනික් ගජ්ජු මේතන තේරුම් පුජ්‍ය මන්තු කරගන්න කොදුයි.
We saw what people do when they see large trees on the bunt of a river. They try to construct a walking path opposite the Parakrama Samudra. These people exist because it is a bad period for the country.
Farmers' organizations charge authorities have not only threatened the ancient hydraulic heritage of Sri Lanka, but have also handed over vital farmlands for worthless plantation projects. The release of hundreds of thousands of acres for aloe vera plantations is a prime example.
According to the cabinet proposal presented on this project, it notes an investment of $783 million will be made. This proposal did not appear out of thin air. We saw this coming because we knew of the government's wasteful act. This cabinet proposal was presented and subsequently approved against a backdrop where this controversial private company has been laying waste to lands in Yaya 18.
කරමින් ඉන්න වටපිටාවක් ඇතුලේ තමා මේ කැබිනට් පත්‍රිකාව ගහලා මේ අවසර දීලා තියෙන්නේ. අවුරුදු 3කට කලින්
When this project was introduced to Anuradhapura 3 years ago, they created a utopia in the minds of farmers. They assured the people that more than 600,000 rupees could be generated within 6 months by cultivating a quarter of an acre. Moreover, reports have emerged to confirm 2,000 acres of land in Nochiagama and Rajangane will be taken over for plantations. We want to question Minister Chandrasena. Here is an aloe vera plant. It has been 3 years now. Show us a single plantation started by the private company. All the plants in that land used for plantations will be cleared. The land will be leveled. Dunes will be cleared. Boulders will be shattered.
They
pledged at the Ruanveli Saya back then to preserve national assets, flora and fauna, lands and every other resource. But the very same government is now laying waste to each tree, river and lake with no remorse.
මහාසෝනා ගැහුවා වගේ විනාශ කරමින් යනාකාරය අපිට පෙනෙනවා.
We will be back after this short commercial break. Stay with News First.
Do your online shopping with Sambole.lk. Home delivery and pickup now available.
Sambole.lk.
Welcome back to the news. Responding to revelations made on the matter pertaining to the deletion of vital data of the NMRA, Epic Lanka Technologies says in the event of a dispute over the project, it will work within the legal framework in accordance with the agreement to reach a collective solution.
Issuing a release, Epic Lanka Technologies says it is only contracted to the National Medicines Regulatory Authority. The company also states that it had developed the eNMRA software and handed it over to the NMRA in accordance with the relevant terms of the agreement. It further notes the NMRA has confirmed in writing that the software was manufactured and delivered by Epic Lanka Technology in accordance with the relevant terms and conditions. In conclusion, the Vice Chairman of Epic Lanka Technologies, Rishan Wanyarachi, issuing the release on behalf of the company says his company is only contracted for the design and maintenance of the software, adding that it is the responsibility of the NMRA to set up the necessary infrastructure and key hardware.
The data scam.
The Information Communication Technology Agency of Sri Lanka holds the administrative responsibility of protecting the government's cloud system, which is a server containing sensitive information. A company named Epic Lanka Technologies is the supplier of this server to the National Medicines Regulatory Authority. On the 9th of July, details came to light that data belonging to the NMRA had gone missing from the cloud server of the ICTA. Epic Lanka Technologies, which is a supplier to the NMRA, said it had occurred following a blunder committed by an engineer. This led to the loss of some data from the NMRA server, which contains vital and sensitive information. It was later revealed that sensitive data of the NMRA concerning the COVID-19 pandemic was also lost in the process. But the NMRA said it had collected details manually on medicines and medical products purchased due to the pandemic. However, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the NMRA had published advertisements calling for details to be submitted online. Although the court had initially ordered to stop upgrading the cloud server, both parties had been later asked to resolve the matter within themselves. ICTA had then upgraded the cloud server, following which several government websites had crashed. It is suspected that the findings of a forensic audit on the cloud server after the loss of data has gone missing as well. It has been revealed that there had been no backup system in place to retrieve the data, which is claimed to have been deleted due to a fault of an engineer. However, as the Attorney General's department informed court, couldn't this be a part of the pharmaceutical mafia itself? The cloud system of a country is used to store sensitive data of the people. This includes details of national identity cards, land deeds, bank account details, maps, file numbers of criminal cases, as well as judicial records. If one individual can simply delete sensitive and vital records from a server, who will guarantee the security of our data? The Attorney General's department has told court that the loss of data could be a conspiracy that is part of the medical mafia, in which money is amassed illegally by importing medicines and medical devices. If that is the case, who is the mastermind behind this? We report, you decide.
A fresh report issued by Moody's Investor Service on Sri Lanka hints at an increased risk of debt default stemming from limited external financing options and pandemic-related lockdown weighing on the recovery of a non-debt generating inflows. According to the report, without sizable external financing that is relatively secure and long-term, they expect foreign exchange reserves to continue declining over the next 2 to 3 years.
Foreign exchange reserves covered less than 2 months of imports at the end of August, a credit negative. The reserves are also well below the government's annual external debt repayments of around 4 to 5 billion US dollars through at least 2025. Some modest amounts of inflows materialized in August, while Sri Lanka also received an International Monetary Fund special drawing rights allocation of around 800 million US dollars. However, Moody's Investor Service notes, and I quote, "Such inflows are piecemeal and boost foreign exchange reserves only temporarily and marginally given the government's external repayment schedule," unquote. It adds, multiple measures of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka and the restrictions imposed on imports and outbound remittances has helped retain some foreign exchange resources in the country. The report highlighted Moody's Investor Service expects net FDI inflows to average 1 billion US dollars in 2021-2022 compared to a peak of around 2.2 billion US dollars pre-pandemic in 2018.
Fitch Ratings says restrictions on vehicle importation will continue to constrain growth prospects of Sri Lankan finance and leasing companies, dampening prospects for the sector's earnings.
Higher second-hand vehicle prices due to limited new vehicle supplies have reduced affordability and will most likely weaken future demand for vehicle financing. Fitch said this has caused surging demand for second-hand vehicles, inflating prices by around 50% depending on vehicle type. The higher prices have supported loan recoveries from repossession in the near term, but may expose finance and leasing companies to unexpected sharp price corrections. Weaker growth prospects coupled with the economic and financial fallout from the pandemic have reduced Sri Lankan FLC's credit profiles.
Issuing a statement, the Association of Medical Specialists, or the AMS, says that the country's aim should be to move to the green zone from the current red zone in a sustainable manner as quickly as possible.
The AMS requests the decision makers to seriously consider taking this lockdown further to the beginning of early next month, as previously suggested by the widely represented local experts who scientifically analyzed the data they received from credible international sources when the WHO facilitated such brainstorming. The AMS points out that if the relaxation of current restrictions happens too soon, there is a high possibility of severe spread of the disease, resulting in sudden rise of hospital admissions, making the healthcare facilities unable to cope with such high number of patients. The statement adds that this can unfortunately increase the death rate, especially with the identification of the Delta variant as the dominant culprit throughout the country. The AMS says when vaccinating school children, Pfizer-BioNTech should be considered as the most suitable vaccine, and that this should never be rushed without taking time for critical analysis, more so in the younger age groups, especially the 12 to 15 age group. The release goes on to note, quote-unquote, "We feel that it is morally incorrect and unacceptable to consider a third dose for otherwise healthy and young people until the entire vulnerable population, those above 60 years and those with recognized risk factors for severe COVID in any age, are vaccinated," end quote.
Tonight on Crime Watch, we shed light on a series of undisclosed crimes that had occurred, unearthed following a revelation made by the Criminal Investigations Department recently.
Crime Watch.
Shabir Abbas Ghulam Hussain, a reputed businessman and proprietor of more than 9 companies, including a spices exporting company, was found dead in his office on the 9th of June 2017. Although his final rites were conducted thereafter, considering it a natural death, his immediate family lodged a complaint at the CID on the 16th of August 2018, claiming they believe the death was suspicious. Launching an investigation following the complaint, the CID exhumed the body of Shabir Abbas Ghulam Hussain on the 10th of January 2019. As a result of the probe, the youngest son of Shabir Abbas Ghulam Hussain, Ali Asghar Ghulam Hussain, was arrested on the 11th of September this year. The police said clandestine investigations conducted on the matter had revealed that the younger son had murdered his father. Ali Ghulam Hussain is currently in remand custody after the CID reported facts to court. The latest developments have led officers to raise concerns over the death of even the brother of Shabir Abbas Ghulam Hussain, Tahir Ghulam Hussain. Tahir Ghulam Hussain lost his life on the 14th of February 2018 when a portion of a wall and ceiling at a warehouse complex collapsed on him. The warehouse was situated down Babapulle Mawata in Grand Pass, Colombo. On the 15th of June 2018, employees attached to businesses owned by Tahir Ghulam Hussain went to the extent of even organizing protests to make known their suspicions over the death. Since then, it has been revealed that the collapsed warehouse was operated by a company jointly owned by Shabir Abbas Ghulam Hussain and Tahir Ghulam Hussain. A lawsuit filed against Ali Asghar Ghulam Hussain for the fraudulent takeover of shares of a corporation named Adam Expo Limited was also heard at the Western Provincial Commercial High Court. The case was filed by Tahir Ghulam Hussain and the wife of Shabir Abbas Ghulam Hussain. Details on how the illegal transfer of shares was conducted were revealed based on an order issued by the Western Provincial Commercial High Court on the 22nd of December 2017. It is against such a backdrop Tahir Ghulam Hussain is killed following the warehouse's collapse. Isn't it glaringly evident that a probe into the death of Tahir Ghulam Hussain must be launched, especially in a context where his immediate family and employees have suspected foul play?
Crime Watch.
While walking paths continue to be constructed at certain locations, many villages in rural Sri Lanka have been deprived of even a satisfactory road network.
This is the entry road to the Boralankada Mallasana village situated in the Dehiovita Divisional Secretariat. Area residents charge this road has not been renovated for a prolonged period of time. Due to its dilapidated state, residents of two villages are forced to trek for 4 kilometers to reach the Dehiovita town.
The Lotus Tower was constructed with an investment worth in excess of $104 million and it continues to be one of the most prestigious monuments in the country. It has been 2 years since the Lotus Tower was declared open. We leave it tonight with the following footage of the magnificent Lotus Tower. For the Newsfirst team, I am Azra Hassan with our sign language interpreter for tonight, Taraka Gabriel. Take very good care of yourself and good night.
Vaccines reduce the chances of infection and serious illness significantly in COVID-19. Make sure you get vaccinated, especially if you are over 60 years of age.
Welcome to Legends of Music on TV1. We're here with yet another brand new episode with Srilal Ahangama and myself. Good day to you.
Good day. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. Now today we will be featuring an American pop and country music artist today, isn't it?
Yes.
Isn't that right?
And she's called Linda Maria Ronstadt.
Linda Ronstadt it is.
And she's released over 30 studio and 15 compilation albums, many of which have been certified gold, platinum and even multi-platinum, and has charted 38 Billboard 100 singles.
That's not all. She's actually sold more than 100 million records, which makes Linda Ronstadt one of the world's best-selling artists of all time. And she's won 11 Grammy Awards, 3 American Music Awards, 2 Academy of Country Music Awards and 1 Emmy Award as well.
She was also nominated for a Tony Award and a Golden Globe Award, and inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2014.
Right, so the first song that we will be playing for you by Linda Ronstadt is a song titled You're No Good. Now, this was first released by Dee Warwick in the year 1963, and it was covered by many others, but none of these covers actually made it to the top 20 in the USA.
Yeah, and she began performing this to close her live shows in 1973. And she recorded it for her album Heart Like a Wheel and released it as a single in November 1974, and it became her first #1 on the Billboard 100.
That's right. So we're going to play you this song by Linda Ronstadt. This is from the year 1975. This is a live performance of her performing it at the NBC TV show Midnight Special. Here it is.
Feeling better now that we're